The truckster is back in the shop, back in the foundry. It's got some issues. One of which is it won't run, which is, to me, the more minor issue, because I put a bunch of bad gas in a couple of my vehicles and I'm paying the price now. So I'm gonna take the carburetor off and clean it, and I think that will solve that problem. So it was at the country. I pushed it onto the trailer with the mini hoe, and when I got here I backed it off the trailer using the starter motor, putting it in gear, and now I just shoved it in here with my forklift, and I got the front up off the ground with some jack stands. So get it running. Second problem is it steers terribly hard. My wife can't turn the wheel. I mean, she can if you're like driving straight down the road, but if you wanted to back it or turn it around, the thing is really hard to turn. So I'm gonna investigate that and see what I can do to make it easier. 3, it bounces like a ball when you're going down the road, and it becomes kind of almost uncontrollable. It's got these springs and nothing else. So I'm gonna figure out a way to put shocks on the front. I don't think the back is as bad. Another issue is it has very little brakes. I think only one of the cylinders is working. It's not high on the priority list because it doesn't go very fast, but it should have better brakes. And then last but not least, it's too noisy. I'm gonna take my mufflers off, my homemade mufflers, and play with them, see if I can't quiet them down a little bit. So right now, I'm gonna take the wheels off the front. I don't know, take the linkage apart and see if anything's binding. I don't really know how to proceed. Yeah, so I'm gonna take some stuff apart. I'm gonna take the wheels off too and check the bearings and things. Okay, so we have some brakes on that side. All right, let's take the wheels off. The buggy has wheel bolts, not wheel nuts, so it's like an old Volkswagen. You got to hold the freaking wheel up with one hand and try to get the bolt lined up with the other hand, but I don't know why. I guess I could put studs, but it's not that big a deal. This side has a grease cap, which is good. The other side does not. With all the mud and water we've been riding through, I'd say I probably ought to take it apart and re-grease for sure. All right, not terrible. This bearing, the one that had the cap on it, is like perfect. This one that was exposed to the elements, whoops, had a teeny bit of pitting, but not bad. They're going back in there for something that goes 10 miles an hour. Both shafts are good. I would love to replace both of these cylinders if I can find out what they are. Typically on these Cushman bought cylinders and parts from car makers and things. Probably not $10 a piece if I can find out what I need to buy. But okay, so far so good. I'm gonna try to knock one of these tie rods off so I can swing the kingpins and see if they're tight or loose or sloppy or what. All right, I'm under the front of the truckster, and I got this tie rod undone that connected the steering to the steering gearbox, and everything works smooth as silk, lock to lock. The only play is this little bit of play right here in this ball joint. The other ones have no play. So I don't know what's going on. I know the geometry is kind of weird, but I'm wondering if the steering gearbox is just old and decrepit. It does have a good bit of play. So I'm not looking forward to this, but I'm gonna try to get it out. And I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm gonna try to get it out. Put it on the floor and check it out. So I got the steering wheel off, and I got the guide shaft off. And I don't know if you can see, there's a lot of play in there. Seems like it should be a little snugger than that. So maybe this steering gearbox is just worn out. I wonder if I can find another one. Take it off. So I got the 2 set screws out. I don't know if you can see the holes, but the coupling is welded to the shaft coming out of the gearbox.
it's welded up here. So, I don't know, I'm gonna go unbolt the gearbox, and hopefully the whole thing will pull through the bottom. If not, I guess I can just cut it, and I can always put another couple in and weld it again. This is interesting. I don't think any of this stuff is original truckster, but I don't know. I got it out. It was pretty brutal. I got dirt all in my face and my eyes, and my arms are bleeding. I got it out. And I don't know. I don't know anything about gearboxes. All I know is it shouldn't wobble around like this. So I'm gonna open it up tomorrow and see what's inside this thing. See what we got. Yeah, this is definitely welded, which means the set screws didn't hold because you have to turn so hard, maybe? Who knows?
So this end of the gearbox has a big giant lock ring, and I was wasting my time here trying to beat it off with a plastic handled screwdriver. When you use screwdrivers to do this and they have a plastic handle or wood handle from the old days, a lot of the inertia from hitting it with a hammer is absorbed by the plastic, which is somewhat soft. So I finally wised up. I went and got a steel punch and got the thing to unscrew, got it apart. I didn't know what was going to come out of it. I didn't know what to expect. So I kind of cleaned my bench a little bit and put down a paper towel to maybe catch some whatever springs or bearings that may come out of it. And it was a non-event. Nothing came out of it when I got it open. It's just a big wad of nasty grease. Everything in there was grease. Fritzing around with this thing a little bit, it didn't take long to figure out that coupling was going to have to come off because the shaft has to come out towards me, towards the big hole, and the small hole on the other end is not big enough for the coupling. So we're going to have to do something.
I'm going to go try to remove this weld with the grinder. I don't want to cut the shaft off because then to put it back together, the coupling's going to be up into an impossible to reach position. Even if I booger up the shaft, I still want it this long. I'm assuming that's what it is. So I'm gonna go hit the grinder and try to get this half off because this shaft has to come out this end, and right now I can't get it out. Hey.
So this is the output shaft. It's big and beefy. It has what is basically a section of a spur gear on it. It doesn't have any bearings, so there's no way to adjust play. It's got a big bushing on the end where the swing arm bolts to, and it is worn a little bit, but not terribly. Now this is the input shaft. It's a little more complicated. It's a worm with some fancy little ball bearings and stuff. And it's meant with bearings on both sides, and it is adjustable. So theoretically, when it's repaired, you should be able to get all the play out of this thing. But it's all gross. It's going to need a lot of cleaning so I can even see what's going on in there.
All right, I got it apart, got it cleaned up, which was an ordeal. This is really not clean yet. And I got it figured out, I think. This is the driven shaft, and it just slides through here. And this is the end cap that keeps it from moving back and forth. And this is aluminum. It's got like part of a bushing. And on this end, there's a big long bushing. It's about this long. So I guess this takes the stress, and this shaft is cantilevered. It's pretty stout. There's no bearings at all on this shaft. Of course, it only moves like, I don't know, 60 degrees from one side to the other, and not very fast. So I guess this bushing is taking a load, and it's still pretty good. Hopefully I can get a new seal
for this end, keep the grease in place. This end is closed, so it doesn't need a seal. Now this shaft comes from the top and goes through here like so, and this end cap has a bearing, and that bearing rolls right there, and that's what this lock ring is for. You can adjust the torque on that bearing. And this end is where the problem is because it had a bearing and they all fell out when I cleaned the inside. So this is where the race was, and it's not that bad. I have no idea where the race is for this end, whether I need to beat that out and there's a race in there or it's permanent. I don't know, I gotta go do some research. But I'd like to get 2 new seals, the bearing and the race. And I think that's gonna be a lot of my problem, because if it doesn't have a bearing, it's not gonna fit right, it's gonna be hard to turn. And then my wheel, my steering wheel is 14 inches. I'm gonna see if I can't get a 16 incher. That'll help with my wife being able to manhandle the thing. So I got some numbers off of here. I don't know anything about these, but I'm sure there's people on the internet that are experts, and maybe I can get parts for this. I don't even know what kind of car it came from, whether it's truckster. I don't know, might be original, who knows. So I got a new bearing, comes with a new race. Extremely reasonable price on the internet. So I need to get the old race out of here, which comes out this ways. There's a seal on top of it. And I bought a new seal, but I don't think the seal is the right size. It looks too big. But I can put the seal on after the fact. I got to get the race out, and it's giving me a hard time. I'm beating on it with various tools. Problem is it's been there forever. But one of the problems is you only got a little bit of edge to hammer on. So tried that with this thing, keeps slipping off, and then I found a piece of pipe, which is solid bronze, that'll fit in there. And I thought I could beat it out like that, but it ain't happening yet. We'll go put some heat on it, see if it'll come loose. All right, so when Boy Genius here realized he was going the wrong way with it, made a big difference. It was still hard to get out. And I don't know how I didn't break this casting, because I was wailing away at it pretty hard. I guess because I had a bronze drift pin. Anyway, got the old one out, got all the little parts it broke, got them all out, got it cleaned up, and get the new one in, and hope I haven't mangled that hole up down in there where it'll fit. I don't think I damaged the hole. And I got the 2 seals out, so I'm gonna go around the corner to the hydraulics store. They're pretty good about measuring stuff up and getting stuff. All right, since it appears I'm gonna be able to get this thing back together, this is where the steering shaft is connected, and they had welded it, even though it's got 2 set screws. This one fits in this thing, and this one fits here. So I was thinking about drilling all the way through and put a bolt in it. I don't know if I put it together and it fails. I don't know if I can get my drill in there. It was kind of a tight fit. So it's either I'm going to drill it now or I'm going to be sorry. What to do? I think I will go ahead and, this has to fit in the steering shaft. How much playroom do I have? Not very much. Okay, this fits in there, and this fits over the shaft. Man, if I put, I guess I could put a, I don't know, I can't think. I'm gonna leave it be, and if it slips, I can weld it just like it was welded before. So that means I'm gonna take this back apart and clean it one more time and put some grease on it, because it's dry right now. Put it back together. I think it originally had oil in it, but it's 55 years old, or 50 years old. It's got some wear and tear. We're gonna use grease. This is a really cool thing. It's got 27 ball bearings in this loop and in this loop, and somehow or another they go round and round this little tube. And I'm not taking it apart because I figured all I can do is screw it up. I did look at this on YouTube where somebody else did it. Kind of a cool thing, and as far as I know, they're still making them like this. Well, probably not. They made them like this for many, many years. And they added power steering, but this little part stayed the same. Okay, it's grease. Lots of grease. I'm not gonna be able to turn the camera off. Except take my gloves off. Wait, I'm gonna keep doing this until I think there's plenty grease in it. I took a little finesse. The big nut or the whole thing turns in and tightens up those two bearings to each other to remove the slack. But then when you hammer down the lock ring, it pulls the slack out of these threads and it makes it loose again. So you gotta get it a little tighter than you think and then lock down that lock ring and then check it and repeat. Took me a few times, but I think it's pretty good right now. So the gear on this shaft, or I guess it's supposed to be the worm, I don't know, it's not really a worm. It's 4 teeth long. So I put the middle notch straight with the middle of the hole. And this deal is 5 teeth long, so I'm just going to put the middle tooth right in there. First, I'm going to put a lot of grease in this cavity. Bolt it up. That's it. Pretty simple machine. I guess if you add power steering, it would get a lot more complicated. And on this cap, got this little deal. It's got that little bolt thing that fits in here, right? Come on, yeah. So you can adjust that gear. You can adjust that gear in and out. I got a feeling it's got a sweet spot. So now that it's on there, I can screw this back out and get the aluminum plate closer. And the aluminum also acts like a bearing, but I don't know. There's no bushing or anything in there. It's just aluminum. So, okay, and then that's it. After this, it is back together. There's no more parts. Oh, there's a lock nut that goes on this, keeps it from moving. So now I'm going to clean it up and haul it down to the guys around the corner and see if they can't fix me up with some seals for these 2 shafts. I'll put it back in the truck. So unfortunately, the truckster got evicted to the hot summer sun in the parking lot because I have a bronze to pour, or 2 bronzes to pour, and Art pays the bills around here. So got the foundry kind of set up. I'm gonna de-wax these 2 pieces of, each one has 4, and the last time I poured these, they didn't go so well, so try them again. But anyway, the truckster is waiting on some seals and a tie rod end, both of which, well, the tie rod end should be here soon. The seals I ordered and the wrong ones came, so apparently I ordered the wrong ones, so it's kind of stuck anyway. So this wonkiness here was because I could not find a little ball joint in that matched the one that was bad. So the one I got has a bigger thread. So I welded a nut on the end of a pipe and put a jam nut, and then I cut the original tie rod a little shorter, slid this pipe over it and welded it, and it's all pretty ugly, but it's going to work. And now this stud part of the ball joint is bigger than the old one, so I'm going to have to drill out the old arm in place, which is going to be a bear, I think. Let's go take a look.
I should have known it wasn't going to be that easy. I need a bigger hole. And I did 2 more drills And the next one I broke the bit because that metal that whoever welded on there is not mild steel. It's some pretty tough stuff. So this is one drill size bigger, 1/64 bigger, and I've got the 1/2 inch slow turning drill because these bits won't fit in my other drill, and it looks like it's not doing anything, but it's not really doing much. But there's a little chip falling out every now and then. So yeah, broke that bit real fast, but if it would have worked, I would have been okay with that, but it didn't. It's still not big enough. So I got a 1/2 inch drill bit and pretty much ruined it because it kept sticking and breaking the tip off, and I'd regrind it and it would go a little bit and miss. I almost got the torch out, but I didn't. I muddled through and I got a 1/2 inch hole in there, and that's what it took. So if this would have been my wife's car and she like runs down the highway at 75 with grandkid, well, 70, 68, and I wouldn't have been doing all this work on a steering because it's kind of dangerous if it fails. But this little off-road deal is going to be on the dirt trails, and if never going to go probably more than 10, 15 miles an hour, so I'm accepting the risk of me getting a bad weld or something. I don't think it'll be the end of the world if one of my welds comes loose. It'll be a pain in the rear, but it won't be the end of the world.
I got to rest my knees.
So pour's done. I'm back inside out of the direct sun, which is huge, and got everything back together, and it's not turning well. And what happened was the shaft, the steering shaft that goes up to the steering wheel, when I tightened down the set screws, it was crooked, so it was rubbing on the inside of the steering tube. I got that fixed, got it straightened out, and I think we have some pretty good steering right now. But we're in the fully lowered position of the front axle. You can see I've got the springs out. I had to take the springs out because I couldn't jack up the front axle without just lifting up the cart. So I rented some spring compressors and I got them out.
This first spring is about to come out. I don't like this at all. It was under a huge amount of tension and it was right by my face. I almost quit a couple of times, but it's going to come out. It's stuck on a little keeper at the bottom. Just needs some more prying, and I don't have a way to hold my camera down there, so yeah, you probably don't want to watch anyway.
Second coil spring is out. This one went a little bit easier because I grabbed one more coil, which means I didn't have to squeeze quite so hard. But it's brutal on my hands. Everything under there is really sharp. There's no room. Before I put it together, I'm going to take the flat disc and the grinder and try to remove some of the sharp edges. It just makes it so unpleasant. But anyway, we take this off and return these. These are rental from the Auto Zone or whatever it is, and come back and take some measurements.
Alright. When it's in the up position, this part of the suspension hits this link right here. It's in a bind right now. It won't turn, and you can see it's bent. So this is not the first time it's hit. I'm only gone 2.5 inches of travel, which I don't think is excessive. So can I just move this pivot point up, cut the bottom of that off? I don't know. The more I move this up, the less travel this will have back and forth. So maybe it won't turn lock to lock. I'm gonna do some measuring because that's the easiest solution. And it has these nice, where are they? It has these nice rubber bumpers that looks like they should hit here, but they don't hit anything. So maybe when I determine the maximum up, I can cut this off and re-weld it so these rubber bumpers will hit this, which is semi-flexible steel. Yeah, okay, we got lots to do here. Okay, I've been doing some ciphering. Put this bar here, just have something to measure to, and this is hard to measure because nothing's linear. Everything's in a curve and in a different plane. But basically, if I measure from the hole where this goes, where the little swivel goes, all the way to this lock, it's like 5 3/8. I need 5 3/8 travel. And now, if I measure from here to here, and come all the way, I've got 7.5 inches of travel. So this is moving, or this has the ability to move more than is needed. So if I were to move the hole up right here, I had a little black mark, but it's gone. I would get 5.5 inches of travel, which I think is doable. I would also get better leverage because this arm would be shorter, and thus I could put more torque to it, and it would raise this so that in the extreme up position, maybe the suspension would not hit this tie rod. So I'm going to whack this off. I'm going to drill a hole for the tie rod and put it back together. Everything's just hand tight right now. We're going to try that. I think that's going to be a big improvement. All right, so I cut this off of here, where it was kind of like that, and I moved the hole up and drilled it here. I think this used to be here because this has a raised boss. It's not like homemade, it's like a steel casting or something. Remember when I tried to drill this hole here just a little bit bigger, I broke a drill bit. I don't know what they made this stuff out of, but I don't know what this piece of steel is made out of, but it is some kind of hard. I dulled some bits and sharpened and dulled, and I'm not a machinist, but I can drill a hole. But boy, this was a tough. I don't know what, it's almost like drilling through a fire. Okay, so after that modification, steering gear all the way toward the front, the wheels turned all the way short, close to an inch. However, turn it back the other way, got a more than an inch. So I'm going to take this off and unscrew the ball joints and try to make it an inch longer or so. Put it back on there and give it another shot. I think we might be onto something here. Well, I messed up. This one came loose and I got about a 1/2 inch out of it. This one was really, really tight, so I put the torch on it, pulled on it, and broke. Man, and I had an ordeal trying to find that last tie rod in. I think I'm just going to weld this back on there. Wish I could make it longer and then weld it on there, but I'm going to weld it back. Shoot. Got it welded back. Everything's lovely. It almost turns lock to lock, but not quite. But now I've caused myself another problem. This ball joint is in a bind because this is up higher, so the angle is it's not as parallel, so I can't really tighten it. So I'm going to cut this right here and bend it, twist it, and I can also bend it, I think, to make it to where I can get lock to lock. So I'm going to cut it like almost all the way off and bend it and twist it and cross my fingers. But anyway, we're getting there little bit by little bit. Okay, we're getting better. I have the jack so the suspension is lifted up, and we have lock, metal to metal, to lock, metal to metal, and the steering linkage doesn't hit anything. So that's a big improvement. And I got one problem. If I get down lower, I'm about to fall. If I get down lower, I don't have lock on this side. This is still not long enough. I've probably been making it longer twice. Got locked that way. I don't have locked this way. So, I'm debating if I need to cut that again and make it longer, or leave well enough alone. Okay, so I made the length longer and I kept the bend or the arch in it. And where it full down, it's sitting on the rubber. Lock to lock. Got it. Lock. I guess full up position is going to be wherever I set it. I don't know how high it needs to come up. That's the limit of my jack. Oh, this is awesome. So I need to take that off and weld it. I need to weld this, which I can't. So I just have this tie rod tacked. I'm going to have to take it off again and weld it. I have to weld this, but I can't reach my welding machine over here, so I'm gonna have to wait till I get the tires on it and turn it around and drive it back that way. I think it'll stay in the meantime. I don't know. If I could stick weld, I have leads that'll reach, but I'm not much of a stick welder. So as far as steering improvements go, I think I'm done. A new ball joint here to replace the one that had some play in it. I've bent this and twisted this and re-welded it to make this line up better. I've shortened that crank coming off the steering box, which will actually give me better leverage because it's shorter now, so you have to turn the wheels more to get the same amount of travel. I've bent this, and well, I didn't bend it, it was already bent. I cut it and made it longer to make it work better. And got the new steering wheel on. So it seems to work. Everything seems to work well. So the next thing we need to look at is the travel, the suspension, the maximum up and maximum down. But that'll be another video. So I think we made some improvements here. Time will tell. So thanks for watching.